Hey guys, I'm back. It's been a little bit since the last video. Um, Things have been kind of hectic. I'm still working through trying to get Michelle in to see an endocrinologist. I made a bunch of phone calls again this morning about it. And supposedly Monday I'm supposed to hear from the endocrinologist and be able to get her in because her pulse is on average around 94. I'm sorry, her pulse on average is about 42, and her temperature's been running on average maybe around 93 and a half. And that's being on steroids twice a day, morning and night. So I don't know, you know, where I'd be if she wasn't on the steroids. So thank you for all the prayers for my dad. He's in hospice now. They're starting to take over now and administer some drugs and different things to get him comfortable. And so I appreciate all the prayers and everybody that's been lifting him up and our family. The last couple weeks I've been thinking a lot about, why or people over my lifetime. I've always heard stories about people that knew exactly when they something happened in their life and they either saw God, spoke to God, somehow had some kind of interaction that was like the turning point for them to have faith. And I believe them. I believed all the stories. Horrible things happen to people, and there might be no other explanation but for it to have been God. My situation, I think I kind of said it in one of the videos not that long ago. In my case, it happened maybe, it's hard to remember because it's been so long, but it was either the second or third night after Michelle's aneurysm. But we had moved into an old golf course community in West Palm or in Lake Worth called Sherbrooke, and the homes in there are all custom, beautiful homes. I'd driven through the neighborhood forever, ever since we had homes, and always fantasized about what it would be like to live in there. And through, hard work, and somehow Michelle and I ended up being able to get a home in there. And the golf course was abandoned, and it was still intertwined in between the neighborhood, but it just had all this big space around it. It was very unique for that part of Florida to have homes on such big pieces of property and right in the middle of the city, or in a very populated area. But we felt very blessed to be there. We never took it for granted that we had that beautiful home. We had a golf cart. Michelle and I would take our golf cart out probably 2 or 3 times a week minimum, take the same route basically every time. And every time we did it for the 7 years that we lived there, we would always say the same thing. We would look at each other and it's like, we're so lucky that we live here and we have this, time that we can spend together like this. It was like stress management. But anyhow, when we first moved in there, they told us that there was a night security guard that they had. They had been there for 20 years, I guess. His name was Charlie, and that at some point he would be stopping by to introduce himself to us. And of course, very soon after we moved in, one day Charlie pulled up in the front yard and introduced himself to us. And he's probably like in his mid 80s at that point, maybe early 80s. Couldn't really walk, wasn't very ambulatory, but just the sweetest man. And over time, we got to know him better and better. Michelle used to cook extra dinner sometimes, and we would text him and say, "Hey, Charlie, if you're working tonight," Michelle would make food for him. He'd drive up by the front yard, and I'd run some food out to him. And I mean, he was just a very sweet man. And the thing that I remembered the most about him was that he drove, when I would lean into his window to talk to him a couple times a week when he would be passing by, and I noticed he had this big, thick, really worn Bible that was on the center console of his, like on the armrest of his, between his seats. And it had like rubber bands holding it down to the armrest, and he would rest his arm on top of it. And he was definitely a man of God, but he didn't, he wasn't like in your face about it. But I would talk to him about it, and he would say how he would never go in the car without the Bible. And so anyway, fast forward 7 years we were there, and Michelle has the aneurysm. And shortly, it was like those first couple days, my cousin Mike lived in our neighborhood, and he was on the board, and he knew Charlie really well. I think it was his job to deal with Charlie. So he had told Charlie what happened to Michelle. Of course, he was devastated because he loved Michelle, and so I had come home from the hospital late from, when they kicked me out of the ICU. It was either the second night, maybe the third night. And at that point, I still, I was in a tailspin. I was blaming God again, just like I blamed him when he took Brittany from us and brought her home. And, I didn't get it at that point. And because of everybody reaching out to us, the whole world found out about what had happened to Michelle pretty rapidly, and everybody was reaching out and offering prayers and concerns. And I just, I was in shock, and I couldn't really understand it. But I started to feel a little bit guilty that second or third day that, everybody was praying for Michelle and I wasn't. I was blaming. So when I got home that night, the doorbell rang, and I went to the door, and Charlie was standing there, and he didn't move very well. He could barely walk that well. He would just sit in his car at night and patrol the neighborhood, and if something was wrong, he would call the police, and I guess they knew him, and that's how he operated. So to see him standing at the door, I don't know that I'd ever really seen him walk much before that. And I opened the door, and he asked, he had kind of tears in his eyes, and I'm sorry, it's really hard every time I think about it. And he just asked if he could pray for me. And we had 2 columns by the front door, and he kind of backed up to one of the columns and kind of rested against it. So I took a couple steps out the door, and I kind of knelt down on the ground in front of him, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he had the words that were coming out of his mouth. It was like, it was definitely God talking to me through Charlie. And because it was the most eloquent thing I'd ever heard in my life. And so that night I went back in the house and I got my childhood Bible that my grandmother gave me when I was a little kid, and got it and went in the bedroom and laid in bed and cried and started praying, and I haven't stopped since. But so basically I just, I didn't get it when Brittany had to leave, and I still haven't figured it all out. But now that I'm 3 years plus into this, I just know in my heart that we have to be like Jesus said. We have to love God with all our heart, and we have to love our neighbors and take care of them. And there's no other explanation for it, and as I have to just prophesy about this and testify to it. It's really the only thing I feel like I can do to help Michelle and help myself. And I know, I really don't know how my kids feel about this, but hopefully they'll understand it someday. And that's it, really. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be depressing. This is actually a beautiful thing. If, no matter what you believe, what religion you are, the bottom line is this life's about love and just taking care of each other, and no matter what you believe in your heart. So anyway, happy Friday. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and I'm happy because it's like close to 80 degrees, and my South Florida thin blood is so much happier in this warm weather. So have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you on the next video. I love you guys. Thanks again for all the support and prayers, and peace.